ACI at All Saints Episcopal School, and at the time of the injury of the blowout fracture, he worked through Ben Hogan, but he was contracted to do athletic training work for the Footworth Cats, and it was actually an athletic training student that was an intern there that was the patient of the blowout fracture at the time. So he's going to explain what he did and how it happened as the blowout fracture occurred. So, go ahead.
Basically, we're just in the dugout, normal ball game, doing kind of normal deal. Our dugout's pretty cramped, pretty small. I normally sit on the first base side of the dugout, so the further end away from home plate, which has more screening and protection. The patient that day was actually situated looking at home plate with her left leg down inside the dugout and her right foot up on the first step of the dugout. So she was fully inside the dugout, yet still open from the opening of the stairway up to the field. So right-handed batter up, we're in the first base dugout, so we're open to them. It was a fastball late on the pitch, so got hit about right there, came straight in our dugout, and I was actually walking towards the patient at the time. I saw a blur coming at my left temple, and so I spun, heard a big crack as loud as you can think if you clap your hands together. By the time I finished my spin, realized that one of my intern athletic trainers was leaning up against my leg. I saw blood gushing out of her head, and so immediately I carried gloves, gauze, and power flex in my pocket, so immediately took that out, put my glove on, grabbed the gauze, started to control the bleeding. Got my other intern athletic trainer to retrieve my bag from the end of the dugout so I could have more supplies, and then really just started talking to the patient. She was fully coherent, fully conscious, knew everything that happened, knew everything that I was asking her, knew everything that was going on, knew who all was standing around, which was amazing that was the situation. What the ball ended up doing, coming straight off the bat into her left eye. She had on a pair of sunglasses, and it hit her square over her left eyeball, which really the glasses are what blew up and what caused the laceration, which was causing all the bleeding. But those glasses really probably saved her eyeball and saved her vision in her left eye. So after while I was controlling the bleeding, I was talking with her, trying to see, other head injuries, see if her neck was any situations with her neck, but at the same time, trying to talk to my other intern athletic trainer to get more supplies, also trying to turn around and yell up to our, I believe our manager was up there. By that point, our general manager was on the field with his radio, and he could fully activate the emergency action plan that we had, and so he did. He called EMS. They arrived within a few minutes, pulled right up on the field to the dugout, which was what the EAP was stated to do if that's where the injury had occurred. And by that point, we've really controlled most of the bleeding, got it to stop. I was able to pinch most of the actual laceration together, and I was maintaining that, holding on to that. I believe a nurse from the stands, an ER nurse or something, was actually in attendance at the game. He came down and was helping me try to wrap things around just to keep the laceration stabilized. And then, let's see, we knew we were dealing with orbital blowout fracture at that point, but it didn't look like we were dealing with anything else. No further head injury, no further, C-spine injury, nothing like that. So by that point, paramedics had arrived. We got her loaded up on the gurney, lifted the gurney up onto the stands, and put her in the ambulance. And hospital along with her, and then once we kind of got her into the ER and got everything stabilized, the physicians were checking over. At that point, I rode back to the field and got there before the game was finished to finish out everything. I guess the only other thing during the evaluation process that I was looking for once I ruled out any further head injury or C-spine injury was to see how the actual eyeball was, if it was still functioning, because when I first saw her, I thought her eyeball was going to be oozing out along with all the blood, but she kept telling me that she could see all this fluid coming out over her eye, and then, obviously, like I said before, she could see who was above her, and I did have her close her right eye and try to tell me if she could see who was up there, and she could see and answer everything correctly at that point. So that was a big relief knowing that, if that injury occurred, she had the fractures back behind her eye, but luckily, due to those sunglasses, her eyeball was saved. After I got back to the field, me and the guys went back in the dugout, and we actually found all the bits and pieces of her sunglasses and kind of pieced those together. And the left lens of her sunglasses had the seams of the ball squarely scratched or indented into her eyeball right over the middle of her eye, like I said earlier. So, and once she got out, a couple weeks later, she came back to the field, and we gave her those, and she thought it was the coolest thing to see those and know that that's what contributed to it, and that's actually what saved her vision, was having those sunglasses on. So that's really the gist of that, through the moment of impact and kind of getting her, activating the emergency action plan and getting her to the hospital. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And as far as treatment goes, that night at the hospital, he told me that she had one surgery at least overnight, and then multiple surgeries over time to kind of recover from this injury due to all of the different aspects that happened. And then as far as recovery time, she had actually had summer classes, but she wasn't able to take those classes and had to cancel them because of her vision problems at the time, and had to extend that. And then as far as recovery time, it was an extensive length of time, but as far as he knows, he wasn't exactly how long it was until she was 100% better. So just talked to her here and there and how she was doing. So, but that's basically everything about what happened and what he dealt with. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate you sharing this with us.
No problem.